Welcome to our Let's Talk Data podcast series. My name is Nathaniel Martinez, and I'm happy to introduce to you our topic for today. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe or follow our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. This episode, we are joined by Senior Director of SAP Signavio Process Intelligence, Silvio Arcangeli, and Senior Director of Data Management Solution Marketing at SAP, Ginger Gatling, as they discuss Signavio Process Intelligence. Their discussion will dive into what, why, and how Signavio Process Intelligence works, as well as the integration between SAP Signavio Process Intelligence and SAP Data Intelligence. Enjoy today's podcast and be sure to check out the links in the show notes to learn more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of our Let's Talk Data podcast series. In a previous episode, we talked about Signavio and SAP, how they work together. Today, we're going to dig a little deeper, and we're going to talk about a specific solution, SAP Signavio Process Intelligence, and we're going to talk about how that integrates with an SAP solution, SAP Data Intelligence. So my name is Ginger. I'm happy to be back with you again. I'm from the Data Intelligence team, and we're joined by none other than Silvio. He was on the Data Intelligence team, and now he's in the Signavio team. So Silvio, welcome back.
Thanks, Ginger. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate you coming back, and it's just so good for us that you've gone to Signavio and you still have this really close relationship with the data intelligence on the data management side. So thank you for not leaving SAP. Thank you for just shifting.
My pleasure.
So in the previous podcast, we talked a little bit about Signavio and what some of the solutions were, and you gave us a little bit of an overview of what Signavio Process Intelligence solution. I wonder if you could just go through that again. And you guys, if you're listening on your laptop, if you go to signavio.com/products/process-intelligence, it will kind of gives a nice overview of what you can do. But Silvio, since you're the expert, just tell us a little bit about what process intelligence is.
Sure, thanks, Ginger. So Process Intelligence is the product within the Signavio suite that delivers a process mining solution. So what is process mining? It's basically a very specific analytics approach to analyzing and discovering the reality of business processes. So what we do is that we gather events generated by business process across the various enterprise applications that are required to support an end-to-end process. So think, for example, of a procure-to-pay process that spans an SRM system and an ERP system, typically, right? So while you execute the process transactions and while you work operationally on a certain process instance, you're always leaving traces in the enterprise application systems that support the process, right? And the idea of process mining is let's collect those digital traces that are left in the various systems and that are a proof that something happened in a certain process instance, and let's analyze those traces with a very specialized algorithm that has the objective of sort of reverse engineering, between quotes, what actually happened in the process. So the key innovation and the key value of a process mining approach is to discover all of the different ways in which a business process was executed by just looking at the data. So no need to go for interviews anymore, no need to ask the people about what they're doing, because sometimes they might not necessarily tell you the whole truth of what they're doing, even because it's not necessarily for malicious reasons, but because people might just not be aware actually of the implications of what they do, right, when they work on a certain process. So if you instead look at the data, you are able to get a complete and realistic picture of all of the different ways in which the process was executed, with the related statistics, with the related insights about how long it took, for example, to go from the event about receiving an invoice for a certain purchase order and the event of paying it, right? So to understand, am I paying it too late and is it costing me fines, or am I paying it too early? So am I losing cash, right? Because I'm paying it too early, and that kind of things. So and these are ability of discovering the process reality is really a prerequisite to then implementing any kind of improvement on the process itself.
So in order for it to find out maybe how the process is executed, does the application it's using, does it have to have events, or through the mining, you said it could just look at the data and maybe see what's been changed or something to know? I'm just wondering, does there have to be eventing in the application for it to be able to do
let's
this?
say the actual flow of implementing a process mining project starts from collecting the raw data. So you don't necessarily have to have coarse-grained business events which are already in the very right format in order to then apply the process mining algorithm on top. But what is required is definitely to have some knowledge, first of all, of which tables in which systems do contain, right? So the meaningful information that we need to then derive those business events and then get access to that data, right? So the functional knowledge is something that we address by building templates. So for all of the most common processes supported by SAP applications, we do have templates already pre-packaged, right? So in SAP Signavio Process Intelligence, we have a lot of accelerators, and the number of those accelerators is growing, of course. So it's a big area of investment for us because we want to make it as easy as possible for people to apply SAP Signavio Process Intelligence on top of their business processes. At least all of those parts of processes which run in a standard way, let's say, on top of SAP and even non-SAP applications. But then the other prerequisite is that we must have access to the raw data, and we must be able to move the parts of raw data that we actually need to then perform the process mining logic on top of it. So that data movement piece is essentially a data integration exercise, right? And that's where the integration with the intelligence cloud clearly comes into play.
So the use case of how the SAP Signavio Process Intelligence would work with SAP Data Intelligence is on this initial step to integrate and prepare the data, I guess. Is that right? So yeah, how would that really work?
Exactly. Okay. Yes, because let's say there are the simplest scenarios for applying process intelligence are the ones where you can just reuse the standard connectors, so the built-in connectors that we have in process intelligence, and apply the standard content, and it works, and it's easy, and therefore you're good to go, right? So as long as there's a standard connector supporting your use case and you can use that, you're fine with it. But the reality is that in many cases, landscapes are more complex than that. So there could be systems supporting your business process which are not standard, or systems which are not covered anyway by a standard connector and that go beyond the standard content, where perhaps you must apply also some kind of more complex transformation logic, right? So if you had custom tables, for example, or if you have legacy systems, or if you have parts of your data where you must manage also some more complex extraction and transformation logic, that clearly goes beyond the scope of Signavio Process Intelligence, because in Process Intelligence, we really focus on the process mining solution. So we don't want to rebuild a standard data management tool just because we need to integrate complex data, right? So besides what is covered by the standard connector. So in all of those scenarios where, in order to have, let's say, all of the raw data which is required for process mining, we need to also perform some more complex data integration tasks. Of course, the default and reference approach from an SAP perspective is to reuse the intelligence cloud for that, because it's clearly the easy match, where we can leverage an enterprise grade solution that is already proven by several hundreds of customers now for the intelligence cloud, with all of the flexibility and power that you need to implement all the complex transformations, so that you can get the data from wherever it is stored, land it into the cloud storage of Signavio Process Intelligence, and also fix it before it gets there. So ensure the quality, check the data quality rules on the data, change it as much as it needed, make it homogeneous, make sure that you mask and anonymize all the sensitive data that should not land into the Signavio cloud storage, and so on. So that those are all things that you you can easily do with the Intelligence Cloud.
Yeah. So the role of data intelligence would be to connect to all the systems. So let's say for my procure to pay process, I have 5 systems. I don't, different systems I'm going to use. So SAP Data Intelligence can then help to connect, because depending on these systems, SAP Data Intelligence will already have the connectors. And then we'll talk maybe about a connector between Data Intelligence and Signavio Process Intelligence in a minute. So then Data Intelligence would connect to those systems, extract the data, maybe do some transformations, like you said, some masking, some anonymization, and put the data into Signavio. And then after that, that's where all the analysis would start, right? That's where all like the transforming the raw data into these event logs and all that kind of stuff would start, right?
Exactly, because then in Signavio, we do have the logic to then, let's say, create your process mining data model, which is where you take the raw data and you convert it to an event log kind of format, and you explain the tool how those various tables correlate. So the key point is that we need to instruct the tool, for example, explain which field I can use to correlate a table containing purchase orders to another table containing invoices, right? So what is the field that links those invoices to the related purchase order, which is typically the purchase order number, right? So
right.
And once you do that, then the process mining algorithm can run, and you can start all of the analytical parts of the tool, which is where you then will find the most interesting findings and insights that can let you save a lot of money or can let you drive very effective process improvement initiatives. And the intelligence is really instrumental for the first part. So getting the data there, first of all, and checking the quality of the data before you start doing something on it.
Right. So let me ask you this. So we use SAP Data Intelligence to do the connection, extract, maybe we have to do some transformation, some masking or whatever. And then when we get that data to Signavio, do we already have as part of the not the partnership, the acquisition, or is that being built, or how does the integration between Data Intelligence and Signavio?
It's just about to be released. So at the end of this month, with the new Signavio release, we are releasing the ingestion API. So it's a new public API that was built on top of the data management features of Signavio Process Intelligence. And with that API, we are also releasing a custom operator that you can use in the Intelligence Cloud to call that API, so that basically within a data intelligence pipeline, then you will have an out-of-the-box operator that you can use if you want to send data to Signavio, right? So to make it simple. And that will make the experience, let's say, more seamless when you want to use the two tools in combination.
Right. So you guys, for Silvio just said the end of this month, we're recording this of June of 2022.
Exactly, yes, and the usual roadmap disclaimer applies, right? So I'm pretty confident that we'll make it, right? Because now we are very close to the release date, and I've seen already the ingestion API beta, and we already have even demos internally working, right? But but still, the standard roadmap disclaimer still applies, because you never know until the product gets out.
And then once you get all the data over to Signavio, Data Intelligence doesn't have to do anything to get it back. All your analysis is done then, right? And then you would go to those source systems and make any changes based on what you learned in Signavio. Is that right? To make your processes better?
Exactly, yeah. So let's say at the other end of a process mining project, let's say once you find interesting insights, because typically even just after a few days of mining a certain process, you will immediately discover some variants that should just not happen and that you have to stop. Some others where you have big room for improvement, like variants that are too slow, or where you're spending too much money for doing something simple, and so on. So all of those hints for improvement, sometimes you can just take action on them very manually, right? So I'm like talking to people, asking them, why are you doing this, and what happened in this case where you did this, which was very inefficient, and let's try to change our practices so that it doesn't happen again. So those are the easy ones. Then there are other ones where actually you can automate the fix to make it even more efficient. And there we talk about actionability in our context, let's say. So how do we take action, starting from an insight that I found with process intelligence, and that you can take actions in a number of different ways. So you could use some other tools in the SAP BTP portfolio, and I'm thinking in particular of the SAP process automation tools. So RPA, workflow management, which are different ways of orchestrating and automating a process that otherwise would have been more manual, let's say, and process mining can be used as a way. So SAP Signavio Process Intelligence, our process mining solution, can be used as a way to drive initiatives to implement that kind of automation. In other cases, you could do the actions straight in S4, for example, right? So, or in the SAP application itself. So that there can be different ways of taking action to make sure that you realize the value of those insights. But yeah, the intelligence cloud instead is mostly needed at the very beginning of a process intelligence implementation, which is where you need to actually, first of all, get the data to enable the analytics to happen.
And what if I already have SAP Data Intelligence Cloud? I guess I have to just add on Signavio, or how would that work?
It would just be typically a bunch of additional pipelines, most of the times running in batch mode. So not really adding a big workload, right? So in terms of sizing, projects where you need to support a process intelligence implementation typically will not add huge volumes of the intelligence cloud. Most of the times we are at the very low end, let's say, of the spectrum. And if you already have the intelligence, it's just a matter of supporting some additional pipelines to integrate some additional data to Signavio Process Intelligence. So if you already have some spare capacity of BI, typically no need to add much more. If you don't yet have the intelligence, then you will have to buy it, of course, because it's a separate product. So it doesn't come embedded with Signavio Process Intelligence. So you would need to consume it either by buying a subscription to the intelligence cloud or by spending some CPEA credits on the intelligence cloud to just spin up an instance of the iCloud. And and since process intelligence only requires batch integration, so typically we are happy if we have the data in daily batches, right? So you don't need to have it in real time each and every second. That allows you to use the intelligence also with a very, even with extreme hibernation schedules, if you want to control the cost of your the intelligence instance, right? So you don't necessarily need to get the intelligence up and running on a 24/7 basis. You can save on that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that makes sense to use CPEA credits. All right, so now if I want to learn more, last time we mentioned 2 places I can go to. One is the community page, right? So if you search for community.sap.com/Signavio on Google, you will find it. And there, I guess there's blogs and tutorials. And then, of course, if you go to signavio.com under the products area, you can select process intelligence.
Yep.
So I know you can't promise me this, but maybe at TechEd, there'll be something going on there for Signavio process intelligence and data intelligence. I guess I know you can't say that, it's too early to know.
Yeah, but fingers crossed, we should have something, right?
Right.
Also earlier than TechEd, we will try to publish some additional content. So at present, if you search in the communities, there are already a couple of blogs I wrote 2-3 months ago with a beta kind of approach to combine the intelligence cloud and Signavio Process Intelligence. In the next weeks, look forward for an additional blog post where we will explain actually the general available solution to combine the two products with the new API, which will look slicker, right, and easier also. So that's something that hopefully will come quite soon, and then we will work to add some additional demos, and yeah, hopefully we will have something prepared by TechEd timeframe to dig deeper. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Excellent. And you guys, Silvio's active on the community. So if you're interested in this, I mean, he's the product manager for Process Intelligence Signavio, SAP Signavio Process Intelligence. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
So you can connect with him there. You can ask questions on the community and he can get with you. And I'm seeing several of your blogs where you've talked about that. Here's one: integrating SAP Signavio Process Intelligence and SAP Data Intelligence, a concrete example and step-by-step guide. And all I did was Google community.sap.com and Silvio Arcangeli. So that was pretty easy to find it there. Okay, well, Silvio, thanks for joining us. Anything else we need to mention? I think we covered all the things we wanted to. Anything else you want to mention before we go?
No, I think we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, if you are interested in this podcast, we hope you'll subscribe to our Let's Talk Data podcast series wherever you listen to podcasts. The previous one we did with an overview of SAP and Signavio, it's not published yet. I think it's going to be episode 57. Hopefully it comes out soon. And there's also a really good podcast we just released, episode 56, what board and senior executives need to know and do about data, where we brought in Thomas Redmond, who's an expert in data quality, and our own Maria Villar to talk about that. All right, so Silvio, thank you so much for joining, and we hope to see you on the next edition of our Let's Talk Data podcast series. Thanks, Silvio.
Thanks, Ginger. Thanks a lot.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Use the links in the show notes to learn more. If this topic is of interest to you, then you might enjoy episode 57, SAP and Signavio Part 1, What and How. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Let's Talk Data podcast.